What's up, everybody? Today we're going to go ahead and cook up some breakfast for Sunday morning. Have some of the pork belly that I smoked up yesterday, and then we're going to do some soft eggs with charred onions, fontina cheese on some Jewish rye. I like to get my stuff ready. So we have the rolled pork that has rested in the fridge overnight. Some of that fontina with a little pepper crusting on the outside. My eggs, my onion. I use a ceramic non-stick pan. I really like them. Maybe I've gotten this thing scorching hot and never had any issues whatsoever. I'm gonna slice up my pork belly. I do like to get these little non-stick rolls. They kind of sell them to line cabinets or crafts or whatever. Craft stores carry them. But then that'll keep my cutting board from slipping on my surface while I am slicing my meat. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a nice little slice and we'll just even off the outside here. Yeah, that looks tasty. And now I'm going to slice it, and you can really slice it as thick or as thin as you want. Me, I'm going to go with just under 1/4 inch. We'll slice up a few slices for breakfast. All right. Now what I like to do is I like to go ahead and I will just get the pork belly in some just regular water. Nice and simple. We'll go ahead and we'll turn the heat up to a medium heat. And then we'll just simmer these for a few minutes. That's going to render out some of the fat a little bit, continue to soften it up. It'll spread out a little bit of the salinity from the original rub that I put on there. And then we'll transfer them to a really screaming hot cast iron pan to crisp them up. Right, now we're just going to move ahead, and while the pork belly is warming up and starting to cook, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to do a small chop on an onion. Now, I do like to peel my onions first before I cut them in half and slice them up. That keeps and make sure that the dirt that's on the skin of the onion does not actually get cut through and into the clean interior of the onion. You know, there's a lot of people that like to chop their onions nice and fancy. I'll do my process a little bit slower than I normally would here. But basically, slightly going across, pulling your fingers just a little bit. That's what I do in order just to make some nice even dice. And then I'll go ahead, once again, making sure that you keep your fingers cradled underneath. The safest I feel is when my knife is actually touching my finger. If you don't do that, you can shave off your knuckles. I've done that before. So once again, just keep it butted right up against your knuckles. Simple as that. Now I have cleaned off my cutting board. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just open up my cheese. Now, what I like to do is at our grocery store, and yours might do the same, they have these little wedges of cheese that are always less than $5, so that you can, when you're not needing a large, massive quantity of a really nice cheese, you can just buy a little 4 or 5 ounce chunk of what you're looking for. But today we're just going to shred it up. That'll incorporate the pepper crust of the fontina cheese more evenly intermixed with the cheese. Nice even strokes down the cheese grater. Give you some nice long threads. So there we go. Pull all the extra cheese out of the inside. And there's our cheese, beautiful, ready to be melted on top of our toast later. Now here we have our pork belly. As you can see, it's unrolled itself. Not really concerned with that. Also, don't really concern yourself too much with the flavor disappearing. You know, some people might think, oh, you're diluting it because you're boiling it, you're simmering it in some water. No, because I'm actually didn't really add very much water. It was just over a quarter cup, maybe a third of a cup. And we're just going to actually evaporate out the water. Once the water is mostly evaporated out, then we'll go ahead and we'll get that fired up into the cast iron. So the water had reduced and I've added my bacon into my cast iron. I didn't add any additional oil. Again, I just smeared it down a little bit at the beginning. And then I added in my bacon. As you can see, it's getting nice crispy bits on there. We're just going to let that continue to cook down and continue to caramelize on the other side of the bacon before we take it out. All right, so now we're just going to scramble up the eggs. Everyone's got their own process on how to crack eggs. I'm just showing you how I like to do it. I worked at a breakfast joint cooking, I don't know, a couple thousand eggs a day. So what I like to do is I'll just knock it against my knuckle. It breaks it. And when you're doing and cracking your eggs, you want to crack them against some sort of a flatter surface. When you do it on the edge of the bowl or something like that, you're more likely to get shells into your eggs. So you want to leave them nice big pieces. Little knock in the knuckle, just opens right up. You see it just nice and easy. Now a few things when I'm going ahead to make my scrambled eggs. I just use a couple forks. You can use a whisk if you like. I'm just scrambling 4 eggs, so 2 forks together works really nicely. You can easily incorporate the yolks into the white. I do not season my eggs before they go into the pans. I feel that the salt pulls out some water from the eggs and it'll really change the texture of your eggs. So that's about it. We have our eggs scrambled up and those will be ready to throw in the pan once the onions are charred. My ceramic pan is cleaned and heated back up. I like to put in my, I use a little bit of whole butter instead of oil or anything like that. And that's what I'll use to cook my eggs in. But first off, I'm going to actually start off with my onions. We're just going to get that butter. I like to get it nice and hot when I'm going to be charring my onions. A little browning in the butter is not a problem. It gives it a little bit of a nutty flavor. It's kind of nice. You hear that sizzle and pop? That means that our pan is hot enough. Now, you can use a spatula to stir them. I just like to shimmy my pan a little bit. That's all I'm doing. I'm just shaking it a little bit, just kind of to move the moisture around. The idea is we want enough space in the pan so that the moisture can evaporate as they're browning. Otherwise, if they're too crowded, you're going to wind up sweating your onions down before you brown them. And then you wind up doing more of a caramelized onion as you pull the sugars out. That is definitely a good technique to do in some instances. I personally just don't prefer it for something like this. So they're starting to get a little bit of color. We'll just once again shake them around a little bit. We're just trying to get a little bit more color on them. And then while they're nice and hot, we'll add in the egg mixture. All right, I think we're about ready to add the eggs in here. We already have our butter with our onion. We don't really need to add any more butter. Now our pan is also screaming hot. So What I'm going to actually do right now, I'm actually going to turn my burner off. I like to make sure that I'm not going to overcook my eggs. And this is just a nice, easy way to do it. My onions are already browning. I also do, just so you know, I do have a oven preheated to 400 degrees. And that way it'll be ready to go when we want to put our toast in there with the eggs on top to melt the cheese. Now, we'll go ahead and just kind of get our egg in the pan. Once again, the pan is turned off, the burner is. I'll even lift it up periodically because our pan is already hot. There's enough residual heat in there to cook our egg and get it to set up. We want the egg to be just a little bit soft. It'll just make a nicer finished product when we actually put it on our toast and toss it in the oven. All right, so that's good to go. I'm gonna transfer that into a bowl and reserve for later. All right, the bacon's ready to come out of the pan. It's looking good. We'll go ahead and we'll turn the burner off. And I said bacon, I'm sorry. It's smoked pork belly. My opinion, it's not bacon unless it's cured. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's my opinion. So we're just gonna pull it off, reserve it for later, set it on a paper towel just to allow some of that residual grease to drip. I think our bread's just about done. We'll turn our burner off once again. Yeah, look at that. That's looking nice. Toast it up. That's going to give us a little bit of a barrier so that when we put our eggs on there, they don't get, it doesn't cause our bread to get soggy. And now I'm just going to take my eggs and I'm just going to evenly distribute them across the 4 pieces of toast that I have here. Doing our best to make sure the fact that the eggs don't fall into the pan, but you know, I'm not gonna cry if they do. It's not the end of the world. It's smelling so good. Wish you guys could experience some of that. All right, so I think we're just about even there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but then we're just gonna go ahead and we're just going to sprinkle across some of this shredded Fontina cheese. It's got that smoked pepper in there, so that'll really go nicely with the charred onions, and then the bacon or the pork belly that we've already made. All right, let's go ahead and we'll put this in the oven. They've been cooking in the oven for about 1.5 minutes, minute 40. And now we're ready to plate up our breakfast. Look at that. That just looks delicious. We'll get the other one in here. So now we got a couple nice pieces of egg toast. Get a couple pieces of our bacon. And we can go ahead and we can, I don't know, put it on there however you want. I'm not always the fanciest plater, but I'll tell you, the food tastes good, and no one's gonna care if it's plated super fancy or just tossed on there like this. When they take a bite, they're gonna fall in love. Well, I hope you guys liked watching my video. Just show you real quick how I like to make some breakfast. Took some of my pork belly that I smoked yesterday, fried it up so we have a little smoked breakfast meats. And then we made some breakfast toast with rye toast, charred onions, some peppered Fontina, and then some soft scrambled eggs. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it and look forward to more videos to come.